I know a lot of you are probably going to binge this show because that's just the way people watch things on Netflix, but to me, this show doesn't actually benefit from binge watching. And when I say that, I don't mean that I won't watch all the episodes in a relatively short period of time, but I don't feel like watching 5 episodes of The Crown back to back is the way to go. I feel like this is a show that deserves to be savored, to be thought about, to be pondered upon a little bit more than that. So I'm gonna watch this at the pace that I can manage, and I'm basically just gonna do an episode or two at a time. And this probably means many of you will pace way ahead of me, and I'm sorry if that means we can't finish this around the same time and have these discussions together. But I don't want to ruin this show by rushing through it. So the first episode, Gold Stick. I'm going to get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen this episode yet, come back after you have. It's very, very good in my opinion. I think that it accomplished a lot of things. It's really setting up a lot of the conflicts and the relationships that are going to get developed throughout this season, and it achieves this very, very well. Now, the main event of this episode, I would argue, was obviously the death of Lord Mountbatten, played by Charles Dance, and he unexpectedly is blown up on a fishing boat in as he's off the coast of Ireland. And I wasn't aware that this was going to happen. I'm largely unaware of these people and these characters because I'm not from the UK, obviously. So I'm vaguely familiar with some of them, but others not so much. So this event kind of took me by surprise. I could tell from the way they were intercutting this killing the fish and the queen and her daughter hunting that something violent was about to happen. It was interesting how they shot this. I'm sure someone could find some significance to this cross-cutting, but I'm not actually sure why this decision was made myself. But I thought that you could just sense the tension and you could sense that something bad was coming. And I felt like the handling of the IRA in this episode was pretty astutely done. Like, I think it's challenging because this show isn't really interested in people outside the royal circle. So having a discussion about the IRA and the complicated politics of that is just not really within this show's purview. It all has to go back to the Queen. So they can't really go into it more than it affects the Queen. But at the same time, I feel like this show kind of has to take some kind of a stance on it. Although this show has never been particularly interested in politics, when you look at the way that it portrays Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher and other prime ministers, it's mostly in the context of psychological profiles of these individuals and how that affected their relationship with the Queen. So, politics don't really play into this that much. But I thought it was a smart decision just to have the IRA speak for themselves, so to speak, as they included these audio clips of the IRA messaging during this time. Because if you're not really wanting to take a stance on someone else, then I think letting them speak for themselves is probably the smartest thing to do, because you're not really commenting on what they've said. You're just letting them say in their own words what they stand for and why they have done what they have done. And of course, because we see how the fallout from this death affects the royal family, I think to a certain extent it is going to create an imbalanced picture of this issue. But I think that's somewhat unavoidable unless they want to just stop the show and just focus on some of the effects of what's happened in Ireland. So largely, I thought that this was a pretty good calculation on their part in their handling of this. We saw some interesting setup for different relationships this episode. I think that it's interesting to me that they're going to replace the actress playing Diana with Elizabeth Debicki in a subsequent season, because I think she's only about 24 and Elizabeth Debicki is about 30. So to me, I question this. I feel like they're only doing that because they're going to replace all of the original cast or all of these actors. So to me, I find that a little bit questionable because I feel like she could continue to play this role. She is marvelous, simply marvelous in my estimation. And I feel like it's going to be a little bit hard to see Elizabeth Debicki take this role on. I love Elizabeth Debicki. She's a fantastic actress, but I feel that this actress, Emma Corrin, has really made this character her own and just really captured an interesting quality. I'm not sure how much she physically resembles the real Princess Diana, but I feel that she captures a lot of her qualities that she had, her effervescence and her kind of mysterious charm. Josh O'Connor was really good in the first season. He's quite good here. I think he does a good job of conveying the authority that someone in his position would feel that they had, the privilege that they've enjoyed, but also just that he's experiencing these very, very interesting emotions as he, has this father figure that has passed in this violent, way, and he's struggling with that, and he's going into this potential relationship with the future Princess Diana, and you see this tentative flirtation between them. I thought the first scene between them was really well done. I think that something that a lot of shows don't know how to do anymore is character introductions, because to me, if you get a character introduction right, then you have done a lot of the work to establishing a character, and so many shows just have characters show up without any kind of introduction. And here, the introduction for Princess Diana, the way that they have her arrive on the scene was just perfect. It's going to be interesting because they have to walk this fine line between being kind of soapy tabloid stuff, but also, not exploring the aspects of this relationship that people are interested in, because people kind of want to see all the juicy aspects. So finding that balance, I'm sure, is going to be an unenviable task for Peter Morgan and the other writers here. We also get to see this episode the relationship between Margaret Thatcher and the Queen starting. And I have to say, I'm a little bit concerned that they're going to over-dramatize this. I mean, there were definitely indications that maybe not everything was always smooth sailing between these two, but I sense that they're going to take this in a more not positive direction, where these two women in power can't necessarily get along. And that has been the case sometimes in history, that it's hard for powerful women to get along with each other. But I feel like, based on my reading of historical sources, the relationship wasn't really that tumultuous for the most part. They managed to basically work together pretty smoothly over the course of time. And I feel like, of course, for a series like this, they have to over-dramatize things sometimes. But I kind of wish that they would avoid that with this relationship, just because I think that it has a negative impact on people's perception of women in power, and I don't think that that's necessarily helpful. Now, I don't know that it's their job to sugarcoat things either, but I do feel that this seems like something where it probably isn't actually reflecting the real relationship between them anyway. So, very, very strong first episode. Production values are, of course, top-notch. This is definitely the only show on Netflix that I feel like really, really rivals Game of Thrones in its heyday in terms of production, and it really looks like something that you would see on the big screen. And like I said, I like watching this an episode at a time, because I just feel that there's so much to savor and to think about. And if I binged it, I feel like some of that would be lost. So I'm not planning to binge this too quickly, but if you are, let me know your overall thoughts in the comments, but please don't spoil anything that hasn't happened in the episodes that I'm discussing yet. So those are my thoughts for what they're worth. If you're interested in seeing more reviews like this one, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.